Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for all of your purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Ladies and gentlemen, this may be the one. Of all the iterations of the Vacheron Constantin Quai made from 2008 to 2019, this one in steel, 100 meters water resistant, Geneva seal, and fully loomed may be the watch it should have been from the beginning and perhaps should have been all along. Let me present you the Vacheron Constantin Quai in stainless steel. So the original Quai came out in 2008, right into the teeth of the world financial crisis. It was a big watch, large for a dress watch, and definitively only 30 meters water resistant. It was a dress watch. You could custom build it from a modular menu that allowed you to use different metals for the different parts of the case. They also brought in a bunch of abstruse anti-counterfeiting technology from the production of certain types of government bonds, currency, passports, and identifications, all of which was to say there was a lot of effort and money spent, but it was of dubious benefit to collectors. Well, there were a few resets, a giant world financial crisis, and then a rebirth in 2016 as a much more focused stainless steel watch geared more towards sporting pretensions. Finishing the concept, in 2017, the steel Quai de Lille gained a new case, and the only way to know you've got it is this little /1 on the case back, as the watch finally became highly water resistant. Let me remove that tape glue, but the watch finally became highly water resistant, so now 100 meters water resistant steel, automatic winding, and fully loomed. This watch was, from 2017 to the end of the line in 2019, a true sports watch, and many believe the blue dial model was the most desirable of those. So it's still big at 41 millimeters in steel, it's thin at 12.2 millimeters thick, and at 50.1 millimeters lug-to-lug. It's not huge, but it wears large because it's a tonneau case. Also, we've got a bit of a weird lug spacing. It's 23 millimeters. But I will say this, being proportional to the size of the case, it creates a nice stance. The lugs don't look too narrow when it's on the wrist. Now, I believe you need a wrist my size or larger to wear this well, so 16 centimeters circumference and up. Here's down the barrel, here's over the top, and then here's the cuff shot, where you can see pretty definitively, though broad, it is very flat, and it will fit underneath a shirt sleeve. The strap, appropriately, is rubber. A Vacheron factory strap, as water resistant as the watch. You can see it tapers considerably as it moves away from the wrist. There's some character lines molded into the top. It's a matte finish. Striations on the bottom to hollow it out a bit, make it more pliant, allow the wrist to vent on a hot day. We've got a folding clasp. You can see the little Maltese cross motif that is the symbol of the company. And then we've got a twin trigger release system, so it's not going to fly open inadvertently. It's a double fold, internally polished and media blasted. We've got that Maltese cross motif again. It's a very secure clasp that will keep your watch on your wrist. It is a double deployant, which I find is less likely to pinch a small wrist than a single fold. And you can also see the underside of it's curved to match the curved underside of your wrist. Now, if you take a look, you can see that this is a very integrated look. The strap is close hauled right up against the case with very little daylight visible between them. And the reason for that is that there is a little recess in the case flank that allows the strap to be there, and yet there's no impediment to its motion. It can be pulled all the way down if you wish over a smaller wrist. We have a sort of Art Deco-like set of tiered lugs, think top of the Chrysler building, and you've got the right idea, as well as a combination of satin and polish to break up the mass of metal. Though it is a 100-meter water-resistant watch, the crown is a push-down. We have a very flat, slightly cambered sapphire, and then a dial that includes a primary sapphire and then another one that sits over the center dial above the date indication. The way this date works is the actual numerals stay fixed, and then you have an orbital date index that tells you the current date. Really, the only refinement this movement doesn't have is hacking seconds. That's really the only shortcoming of Vacheron's manufacture caliber 5100. You can see we have radially arrayed Arabic numerals and indices, as well as a sector-style minutes and seconds track, and you can see just how much depth we have between the center disc, the dropped and sapphire capped track for the date, and then the outer scale for the minutes and hours. And I mentioned earlier, this is a full-service sports watch with no shortage of lume, and they really went all out, even giving you a fully luminescent date, so you can actually play with the date in the dark, and it's quite entertaining. We'll go back to the light, bring that back. On the reverse of the watch, you have the exact same movement that's in an overseas automatic. The only difference is the overseas has a rose gold rotor, this one's tungsten. But they're both Geneva hallmark. There are no marks on the movement. All this is on the case back. It's a product of adhesive stickers, so just don't mind those smudges. They won't be on the watch when you buy it. The watch features a movement that is properly sized for this case. Being a manufactured movement, it was designed for large watches, 30.6 millimeters in diameter. You can see at center we have ceramic bearings for low maintenance and also for a high degree of efficiency. Twin barrels, 60-hour power reserve. We have 5-position adjustment, which is a high horology standard. We also have 27 pivot jewels. Note that Geneva hallmark is both the bridge, and you can see it also on the case, as since mid-2012 it has been a finished standard for the fully assembled watch, not just for the movement. You can see stripes across the bridges. You can also see that there is a high degree of mirrored beveling on the edges, as well as black polished screw heads, engine turning on the base plate, satination on the wheels, and if you look at the rotor, you can see that the rotor includes a combination of media blast, beveling, and then raised, polished, and satinated elements. So you are getting a Geneva seal manufacturer movement Vacheron, and 60 hours of power reserve with twin barrels means not only do you have a slightly above average power reserve, but you also have a very flat torque curve. So from max wind to minimum wind, it's not going to gain or lose a lot of time through the power reserve. And that's why you have two barrels here for super consistent, flat and massive torque application to the escapement for best timekeeping. You can buy a Vacheron Constantin 56 in steel and get a Vacheron for the least amount of money possible. But getting one of these used, which by the way is going to be well under $20,000, is the best way to get a manufacturer caliber Geneva hallmark Vacheron. So this is what I consider to be the most entry-level Vacheron that I find interesting, being Vacheron inside and out with a beautifully finished Geneva hallmark construction, whereas the 56 self-winding features a movement that is shared with Cartier, and while that's distinguished, it's not quite the level of Vacheron Constantin. This inside and out is Vacheron. Take a look at those hands. You can see they're brushed and anthracite colored. This watch is simply rife with refinement and detail. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.